Hi, Emily. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Victoria. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here.
Of
Thank you for
course.
having me.
I'm so happy that you're here. It's great to see you. I can't believe your
Uh,
baby's almost one now.
I know, it's crazy. It's surreal. I feel like I just gave birth to her and I don't know where this year went. It went by so fast.
I know. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny how that happens. Well,
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear your story. Do you want to take me to the beginning when you first found out you were pregnant?
Yeah. My partner, Ben, and I weren't really like trying, but we also were like, if it happens kind of, because we really wanted to start a family but we were kind of just letting it, just see if it happens. And it was, yeah, I guess since September 2024. Yeah, I had missed my period and I never miss my period. Like I'm always like on the dot every month. And so that immediately was a little strange. And I just was like, well, maybe I'm just late. I was working on a farm at the time. So I was like doing a lot of active work and like hard labor. And I was like, well, maybe just might be a little late. I was kind of like in denial about it. And then I guess I think like I waited like a week after my missed period and I decided to take a test and it was positive and I was like shocked, like could not believe it and just so excited. And yeah, and then that just kind of like just everything just changed in that moment, just crazy how quickly it just changes your whole life. And then decided that we wanted, or I always knew that I wanted to have a home birth. I don't like the hospital settings. Personally, for me, I don't like going to the doctor. I don't know. I wanted to be in the comfort of my own home. So I knew right away, like, okay, I gotta find a home birth midwife. And I interviewed a couple and then I landed on one that I really liked a lot. I just immediately really connected with her and Ben did too. And I just felt like she was the right choice and just so exciting to really start this journey. It was just so nice to be able to like go to her office and she has this cute little office and like just like be there for like an hour and like talk and that just made such a difference for me and during my pregnancy journey. And just to hear the heartbeat for the first time, like laying on a couch in a cozy setting. So that's like the beginning, I guess,
What
of it
made you
all.
decide you wanted to have a home birth?
I always knew that, like, when I first learned that, that women do that, I was like, oh yeah, I want to do that. Like years ago, I think. Before I didn't know that, like, I guess you could do that, when I was a lot younger. I always thought, you just gave birth in a hospital. I always felt like I kind of, as much as I wanted to be a mother, like I kind of dreaded that, like doing that, like just the idea of having to go to this cold, sterile place to give birth with strangers around. And I know it can be different than that, but that was kind of how I had it in my mind. But then once I learned that there's midwives and you can have home births and stuff, I was like, oh yeah, that's whenever I have a baby, that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, and I knew as soon as I got pregnant, that's still what I wanted to do. I felt like confident in that and being at home. And I had such a good midwife and team, and that they provided me with so much knowledge of like what it would be like to do a home birth and what would happen if I needed to transfer. And then obviously taking your class, you taught me so much. So I felt really well informed sticking with that decision to do a home birth. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to tell me a little bit about the class and how that experience was for you? Maybe take me to like the beginning before you started the class. How are you feeling about birth? Like to illustrate any kind of contrast between like before and after, and how like the class helped you, if that makes sense.
I feel like before, I think I didn't really, I mean, I had watched a lot of like birth videos and I knew just doing my own research, I knew a bit about, like childbirth and then talking with my midwife and stuff. But I still felt very like just a lot of uncertainty of like and I had a lot of anxiety and I'm already kind of an anxious person. So I was already like battling, having these fears of birth. So I knew that I wanted to take some sort of class because I knew it would be good for Ben too to learn about it because I know he didn't really know much about it and just just a great thing to do together just to prepare ourselves. And Lydia, my midwife, recommended your class and I had researched a couple and I really loved that yours was called the peaceful birth method because that's exactly what I wanted. And yeah, and then we signed up for your class and I was so excited. And you're just so welcoming and such a like just your energy and the way that you presented the class was the peaceful birth method. Like it that type of energy is what I wanted at my birth. Your class was so great because you taught us a lot of things that I didn't know, like about different positions, different coping skills, just informed consent, what to do in different situations. Like a lot of that I did not really know about. And so that really eased a lot of my anxieties that I was having because I was like, writing the story in my head of like, what if all these things happen? And what if it's really painful and like I can't do it? Or what if I have to transfer to the hospital? Like, I was just already kind of spiraling a little bit, thinking about all those things. And just each week going to your class. And I love that I got to go in person too and just grounded me again to like, be like, I got this. Like, this is going to be amazing. And I have such an amazing support team around me, that has my back and like, so just being so informed and you showing us the different positions and stuff was really helpful. So it's like preparing for a test or something, like you have to study, before. And so that was my class of, studying birth. And so I felt a lot more confident going into birth. So thank you so much. I'm so glad that I took your class.
It was so fun to have you. And that was back when I was taking my daughter too. So that was kind of sweet.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that with me. I wonder,
Yeah.
how did you feel like when you were realizing like, oh, I'm going to go into labor today? That's what's happening. Like, how were you feeling then when your birth started?
Well, man, so I was 11 days past my due date. Between my due date and the day I went into labor, I like had signs, no symptom, no like pre-labor, nothing. Like I felt completely normal. And that was definitely a real test because like my anxiety was starting to spike back up, like, just waiting for something to happen. And looking back, I really don't like the whole due date thing because it was a little stressful, like especially with, insurance and, midwife laws and stuff. Like, you have to kind of do need to give birth in a certain window of time or else you'll have to go to the hospital. Just that window of time was so like, I was like halfway in between, I guess, like worlds or something. Like it was like a blur of a time and just trying to stay grounded and have faith that everything will work out. Because I was starting to feel just worried that if I went past, 42 weeks, that I would have to go to the hospital and, all these things were going to happen and all my birth dreams were going to fail and I was going to have this terrible experience. But my midwife like was very reassuring. And so I just really tried to kind of keep myself distracted, but also just enjoy these final days because I knew it was going to happen and just keep having faith. And actually the night before I went into labor, I have like these Native American medicine cards that I like to draw like whenever like I'll pull a card whenever I'm feeling like worried or need guidance or something. And I drew the butterfly and I was like, wow, okay. I felt like that was a sign that this is all part of the process. Like I am literally like going through metamorphosis right now. And that was a sign that just keep it having faith, that this is all a part of your journey and your baby's going to come at the exact perfect moment that they're meant to come. And, don't worry. So I felt that was really cool. And then the next day I went into labor and I was like, finally, it was like just that early labor. So I was having, I started having some contractions. It didn't really hurt that bad. It was like kind of like that, intense cramp feeling. And they were very far apart. They're like 20 minutes apart. And so I was like, okay, finally, like something's happening. Like I got really excited and just relieved. But I was like, well, I know that some women can be in early labor for like a few days. So I was like, okay, well, I think a part of me was like, this is it, but it's also might not be for a while. We just stayed distracted. We went to the grocery store. We got a puzzle. So we set up a puzzle on the dining table and we just had a nice mellow day. It was really hot outside. It was like 90, almost 90 degrees that weekend. So just kind of, I sat in the shade outside. I just kind of like, I don't know. I didn't really do a whole lot. I was really trying to rest, but it's really hard for me to rest. And when I'm like excited. So I remember I was like kind of trying to tidy up and I was like, okay, I just need to like just chill. I need to conserve my energy. And then Yeah, just I remember being at the grocery store and like having a more kind of intense contraction, like in the produce aisle, and just like having to stand there and there's like a bunch of people everywhere. And it just, yeah. So then we had dinner that night and just I felt pretty good. And we put on like a stupid movie just to like I just wanted to just keep things really positive and light and like silly. And then I was like, okay, I really should go to bed. And I tried to sleep and I could not sleep. Like the contractions were starting to get a lot more intense over the course of the night. Like I think finally tried to go to sleep around 10. I kept like kind of waking up thinking I was sleeping, but I was like, no, I don't think I've been sleeping at all this entire time. And they just started getting a lot closer together and a lot more intense. And before that, we had messaged my midwife and, you know, let her know this was happening and she was excited and stuff. And so she was informed and stuff of what was going on. By 1 a.m., I think it was around that time, I could not sleep and I was in so much, like I was starting to, it was starting to get really painful and just intense. I was just, they were getting really close together. So I was like, oh my gosh, so I woke up then and I was like, I can't sleep. Like this is getting really intense. And he we just laid in bed together and he started timing my contractions. That's just what we did for the next few hours. And we called my midwife at I think maybe like 3 or 4 in the morning. Like I think Ben told her that my contractions were like they were kind of still irregular, but they were like some of them were like 4 minutes apart and then some of them were like 5 or 6 minutes apart. So like it wasn't like the exact 4 minutes apart, but they were really intense. And I think she said, you know, just keep timing them. We'll wait till they're more like consistent. And then we called my doula, Jen, who's amazing, and she came over at 6 in the morning, and that was a huge lifesaver because Ben and I both needed support, like a lot of support, and he had been up all night, and so she came and she kind of took over and let him sleep, which was really nice. And so she took over like being my my main support person. And at that point, like I could still talk in between each contraction. Like it was really intense, but you know, I was still able to like those few minutes in between, like be like, oh yeah, I'm cool. Like I'm just like, okay, you know, I got this. And Jen made me some breakfast, and then we decided to go. She asked me if I wanted to go for a walk. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. Because at that I had been in bed like all night and I like really needed to move around. And so we went on a walk, I think like at 7 in the morning. And it was just so peaceful in our neighborhood, like just being out that early. Nobody's out, so quiet and like a beautiful June morning. We just walked like a few blocks and at each like intersection, I had to like stop. Like that's when a contraction would happen. I would stop at like the corner and lean on Jen. And and then we just kept going and we stopped and smelled the roses. And I'll always remember that walk. I needed that. It was so peaceful and just to have her by my side, you know, being there for me and smelling the flowers and just like being grounding myself of like, you know, with nature and stuff. Just reminding myself like of, you know, this connection I have with my baby and nature and stuff. We started walking back. We did some mile circuit, like on the curb walking and stuff. And then we went back inside and it was a really long day. I mean, it just kind of just stayed like that. It was like I was progressing, but very slowly. And my contractions were now like 4 minutes apart and just getting really intense. And my midwife and her assistant came over at like 10 a.m. and they did all the monitoring and stuff. And then it just kind of, that was the day of like, we were just kind of waiting. It started to get really hot. Like that was a heat wave here in Eugene. Like it got into like the 90s that day and we only had air conditioning downstairs. I needed to keep moving. So I was upstairs, downstairs, living room, bathroom. I could not stay in one place, but the upstairs had no air conditioning. So it was so hot. And the midwives and my doula were kept putting like ice cold rags on me. We kept trying different positions. And I think at that point, like I could no longer talk in between the contractions. It was definitely really painful. And that kind of caught me off guard a little bit because I mean I knew birth is painful and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a part of the process. And it's like going through metamorphosis might be painful for the butterfly too, you know? There's nothing to fear, I guess, with that, I guess, in my experience. But it was getting really intense. My midwife asked me if I wanted to do a cervical check just to see if, because it was just seemed like I was not progressing. Like it seemed everybody was very calm, but like there was a part of like, okay, but let's make sure everything's okay, you know, because this has been going for hours now. And so I agreed to that. And she checked me and I was at 5 centimeters. That was a really good sign. Just then kept going throughout the day with these contractions and I was just moaning and there was times where I wanted to scream, like really high pitched scream, but my doula was always right there and she couldn't see anybody, but like I could feel everybody's presence always around me and hear their voices. And she would always be like, remind me to breathe and to, you know, do more of those deeper moans instead of the high pitched screaming. Cause that helps, you know, with the pain. And that really did help a lot. Just like in that moment to switch to the more of the deeper kind of tones. He had to be by me the whole time. Like I needed him there. I was holding on to him like 24 the whole time. And he was so supportive. We did all the different positions that you taught us, the leaning on him thing. Just him being there with me through that, like it made me feel so much less alone. Like this, we're doing this together. We're bringing our baby into this world together. And anytime that he had to leave for a second, I started to feel a little bit like anxiety come back. And I was like, I need him to come back. Like, just stay here. But I couldn't really talk. So sometimes I would be like, where is he in my head, you know? And then he'd always come right back. During those contractions, when it was getting to be really painful, in my head, I was imagining like waves. And I think we did this in your class where we kind of like imagined where the perfect setting for our birth. You could be anywhere. And that I brought myself back to that place and which was like kind of, I think it was like overlooking the beach on like a grassy meadow or something. And so I just like imagined that in my head. And every time a contraction would come, like I would just picture a beautiful, powerful ocean wave, you know, building, and then crash. And then it would, you know, go back. Like, and that really helped me to just remember that there is an end, you know, it's not going to keep this pain is like kind of more in my head. I can do this. I'm strong. You know? Yeah. And I think that if I didn't have those coping skills, I don't know what would happen. I think that saved me just being able to stay so grounded and know that I can do this and then having amazing support around me telling me I can do this and reminding me of how strong I am and telling, you know, saying the different mantras and stuff. I think that was what saved me. Like that really was what pushed me through of like being able to not give up. Cause there was times where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I don't know what to do. Like this is not like, is this just never going to end? I did say that at one point and Jen, my doula was like, well, what, like do you want to go to the hospital? Like, I think she maybe thought that that's what I was trying to say. And I was like, no, like I don't, cause just the thought of getting in the car and going
Exactly.
and then waiting, you know, to maybe get an epidural or something. All of that flashed in my head in that moment. I was like, no, like that sounds way worse right now. Might as well just stay and keep pushing through.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Yeah.
kept me from getting an epidural with my second and my third. I got to the point where I was like looking for every path of escape and no tool was really working anymore. And it was each time in transition. And I was like, I think I need the epidural. I can't do this. But then I was like, but I have to get in the car. And I realized
Yeah.
I can't get in the car. So I
No.
guess my only option is stay here and go through it. And it's like, that's the moment with my second, especially. I just like the reality of it hit me. Like, I can't go around this and I can't go under this and I can't go above it. I have to go through it. That's
Yeah.
the only way out is through. But then once I accepted that and I dropped the resistance, then it got a lot easier. It was
Mhm.
the you know, like this is really hard. I think I can't do this. You know, that was the part that was the hardest because I was like kind of resisting and in that doubt.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what was happening with me too. Is like as soon as I realized, like said I can't do this out loud and then thought about the options and realized like what you're saying, you know, there's only way is to go through. There's no getting out of this situation. And that's when I just like, I feel like I overcame with a lot more strength. I came back of like, okay, like I can do this and I'm going to do this. Like this is happening. Being able to to know how to breathe through the contractions. I remember like the counting and stuff and just like the different styles of breathing and as it's, rising and then as it's fading and stuff. And all of those things just kept me present. Having a good birth team, highly recommend having a doula, a really good doula who knows what they're doing and who's just somebody that you feel really comfortable with and who's very nurturing. For me, that's why I really love Jen because she's just such a nurturing soul. I felt so safe with her and having a good birth team, making sure your partner, your husband is really well informed too, like those things. And then knowing how to breathe and having your coping skills, whatever they are that work for you. I thought that it would be different. Like I did think that, so I watched so many of those beautiful birth videos like on Instagram where they're so beautifully well made. Like yours are amazing and just so peaceful looking and just the lighting and everything. And I love that. It's like art. I loved watching those. But I think I kind of went into my birth being like, oh, that's exactly how mine's going to be too. And I think it just different. And I mean, it wasn't really actually that it was different. I just think it was more, I had these expectations because my birth ended up being a lot like harder than I thought it was going to be. But I think it's really important to know that there is a chance that it could go completely different. And that is totally okay. At the end of the day, you can just focus on what you actually can control. You might not be able to control the setting. You might have to transfer the hospital. You might not, have a water birth or, whatever it is that you were really hoping to have. All of those things might not happen, but you can control how you handle the hard parts. And that's something I think just really important to remember. Like, okay, focus on what you can control.
Yeah, I wonder if you want to take me to, was this transition when you got to the point where you're like, I can't do it anymore?
I had no concept of time during this whole day. I think I was definitely in transition. We did another cervical check just to make sure. And I think at that point I was like at 7 centimeters. I guess that isn't transition. I can't remember.
Maybe. I mean, like you could be 7 and you could be pushing in a few minutes. You could
Right.
dilate from 7 to 10 in a few minutes. Usually transitions around 8 or 9, but if if you were dilating quickly, like I know someone who was 3 and had her baby 30 minutes later
Wow.
and went into transition not long after she was 3. So who
Oh
knows?
my
But
gosh.
yeah, when you get like all that doubt, it's probably you were around that time.
Yes. Yeah. I think I was like my cervix was opening very slowly because had been going on since, the night before. But yeah, I think I was close to transition. Yeah, it was just like all day. And then at around like 7 o'clock at night, I was upstairs, kind of like in between our bedrooms, like that's like, that little walkway area, I guess, in between bedrooms. I was just on the floor, just squatting and just like just going through the contractions and it was so hot. It was like we were all drenched in sweat, like, and they were just putting ice cold towels on me and just helping me through it. And then finally, it's like around 7:30, finally felt the urge to push. Like it was just so interesting because I'm thinking back when you've never given birth before, you're like, what does it feel like to push? Like, does it feel like you have to go to the bathroom? Like, what is it like? And yeah, it feels like you have to go to the bathroom. My goal was to have a water birth. So we had the tub set up downstairs, in the cooler part of the house. And I had tried to get in the tub a little bit before that. And I did not like being in the tub at all. And I think I'm trying to understand why that was because I would think that I would have liked the water. It was so hot upstairs and my body temperature was kind of all over the place going into air conditioning and then back up to the hot room. And then the tub water was kind of not super warm because our hot water heater wasn't really like powerful enough to keep it like get it all hot. So I remember getting in the tub and going through a contraction. To me, it felt more painful for some reason in the water, which surprised me because I know that water can be like a natural epidural, but for me, it
That
just,
happened to me too.
oh, really?
Yeah, with my second. Yeah, I got in the water and I was like, I'm gonna throw up. Like the heat
Yeah.
made me so nauseous and I
Yeah.
just hated it. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
in later when it actually cooled down a bit. My midwife forgot that the hose was still in there and it ran cold. But the cold kind of made it like more of a lukewarm temperature and then I could tolerate it. But when it was like hotter, like 100 degrees, I just like couldn't.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I felt. I felt like nauseous. I was like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
So once I had finally had a desire to put or had the need to push, we went back downstairs because I was thinking I would try to get back into the tub. But once I got downstairs, I was like, I can't do anything but just push this baby out. Like I can't go get into a tub right now. And I was just standing there for a second, going through another contraction. And I was so tired at this point. I mean, this has been going on for hours. I was physically exhausted, but I did stay very well fed and stuff. My midwives made me smoothies and stuff. And like, so I was staying hydrated and like, thank God. Like, if I had been by myself, I don't know what I would have done. Like, I would have not eaten anything. But once I was downstairs and I just really needed to push, my midwife was sitting on the couch and I just got into like a squat position and I was holding on to her. And Ben was behind me, that holding up my arms. So I was like leaning on him, squatting and holding on to my midwife. And I was just like, started pushing. I think I'm pooping too. Like I could smell it. And I was like, I really like want somebody to wipe me off. Like I hope I'm not just like going, but I mean, it makes sense why that happens. It's so much pressure. And then, yeah, I think one of the midwives wiped me off and stuff. And I just was in that deep squat and I was just wanted this to be over so bad that, looking back, I didn't really take my time with pushing. Like I just really kind of forced it. But also my midwife checked the baby's heart rate and it had dropped a lot. And she told me, she's like, Emily, we need to get this baby out. Like she was very firm and serious. And I was like, okay. And I just pushed and then and her head started coming out and then her body just flew out and my midwife caught her. So, like I think I pushed for like 15 minutes. Like it was very fast. I just wanted it to be over. I was like, I know that you can take your time with pushing and that can help a lot with tearing and stuff, but I don't have any regrets. I had to,
No.
I had to get her out and it was time. Yeah. And so, pushing actually felt really good to me. Like it did not like that ring of fire. Like I didn't have any pain, didn't feel any pain with that.
You didn't feel a ring of fire?
No, I didn't. But maybe because the contractions were just so intense. I don't know. I was in another world. But yeah, and then yeah, Lydia caught her and then after it was pretty intense after too. Afterwards, well, I was just so relieved. I remember I held her. I didn't know if she was a boy or girl yet, but I held the baby in my arms. I was just like in shock, like I couldn't really smile. I couldn't really like show any emotion. I was just like so tired. And I ended up hemorrhaging right after giving birth. So right after she came out, all this blood just like poured out of me. I was standing in the living room. And I guess the midwives like had very quickly put a bunch of mats under me so I didn't get on the carpet. But yeah, and I didn't even care. I was not worried about it. But I get it was a lot of blood. I don't remember how much the exact number. And so then I immediately laid down on the couch and at that point I was like, okay, like what is it? I want to know if it's a boy or girl. And I looked and she was a girl and Ben like smiled at each other and we're just both just like, oh my gosh, that was just so crazy. That was the craziest thing that's ever happened. Yeah. And then I just had her on my chest and she pretty much immediately latched on. I felt like I was a little bit disassociated, like just because I was so tired, physically exhausted, and could not believe that I had this human on my chest that I've been carrying for 9 months. Just to see her face and like this was so trippy. My midwife wanted to give me Pitocin for the bleeding, and I agreed to that. And so she did that. And then I birthed the placenta. So I did like one more push and then they inspected me for tearing and I did tear and which didn't surprise me given the nature of how I pushed her out. I think at that point when they went to stitch me up, they had Ben hold our daughter so he could get some skin to skin and they could stitch me up. And he was just sitting right there. And I just remember like staring at them and just staring at her while they were stitching me up. And that was not fun. I did not enjoy that.
No, I tore with
Yeah.
my first two also because I felt all that pressure and I was like, just get her out. Like I want this to be over with. But it's like absolutely the right move if the baby's heart rate goes down and we need to get the baby out. It's like better to just get the
Yeah.
baby out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And something one of the midwives told me too that made me feel better about tearing of just like that's also just your body doing what it's supposed to do, opening up and stuff. And yeah, getting stitched up right after giving birth is not ideal. It's not fun, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just uncomfortable. You just kind of want to be done, but then you're still doing stuff. Christy, the other midwife, she stitched me up. She did a really good job. But then after that, because I hemorrhaged, they wanted to put a catheter in me. And that, I would say, that experience of trying to put a catheter in me was worse than the entire day.
Wow.
Yeah, for some reason they were having a really hard time getting the catheter in, and it hurt really bad because just trying to poke it in there. I was starting to get really frustrated at that point of just like, can you just leave me alone? Like, do we have to do this? I mean, they were so kind and like they're trying being as gentle as they could, but for some reason they were having a hard time. And well, we really want you to use the bathroom because I think you have to do it if you hemorrhage, could be dangerous or something. So I was like, okay, let me try to go to the bathroom. I can't like stop. I was starting to get mad, kind of mad. I was like, just stop. And so I waddled to the bathroom, and there was a point where my midwife was like, I can't leave here until you pee. And if you don't pee, then we might have to take you to the hospital. And I was like, no. Hell no. Like, I am not doing that. And like, there's no way. Like, you can't make me. And so I went back to the bathroom and I finally I peed. So I was like, no way, I'm not doing that. It was a lot, but it was so beautiful too. Everything was okay. It was a little scary losing all that blood and stuff, but I think that my team handled it really well. And I wasn't afraid in that moment. I was fine and I felt fine. I was just really tired. And we kept the cord intact for a really long time because ended up being, I think, a lot longer than maybe like we would have just because we were so busy. They were so busy stitching me up and stuff. And then I really wanted to burn her cord, but we were all just so exhausted. And we were just like, let's just cut it or whatever. And so I got to cut the cord and that was cool. After that, we went upstairs and the midwives tucked us all into bed. And I was just on this like high, this like of euphoria, like crazy high. I was just so happy and I felt so good. I had the adrenaline like rush, like a lot. I was physically exhausted, but I was not at the same time. I think that was at that point. So she was born around at 8:23. So I think by the time we got upstairs was like 11. And yeah, and they just tucked us into bed and it was so sweet. And I ended up sleeping with her like in a cradle position all night. That's just what felt comfortable to me. And yeah, it was beautiful. I say it's one of the hardest things I've ever done just because my breastfeeding journey was kind of hard too. So like that was almost harder, but it was just, the hardest day of my life of doing that. But also just hard does not mean bad, like it's not a bad thing that it was so hard. I feel incredible that I did that. I feel so strong and like I would do it again in a heartbeat, just to be able to see her and have her here. And yeah, it's just such a cool experience. I feel so grateful that I did that. I'm so grateful that I stuck with the home birth too. And like, I feel like a badass. Like it was awesome,
You are a badass.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh,
So
what
yeah,
a beautiful story. Thank you so
thank you.
much for sharing that with
Yeah.
me. That was really, really inspiring and really beautiful.
Thank you so much for listening.